Hello and welcome to another pick a card reading. Today's reading is all about tapping into your power. We are going to take a look at what is your untapped power. We're going to take a look at how can you tap into it. What does it look like when it's integrated? And we are going to get some advice on how to manage integrating that power and why you may struggle with that. So for today's reading, I have prepared 3 piles with different decks, and I chose to have the Strength card for you to choose from, so you can see which deck is calling you. And the Strength card, obviously very fitting when we are trying to tap into our power. So let me show you. This is group 1, group 2, group 3. Let me give you a close-up. Group 1, this is your Strength card. And that deserves a close-up. Look at her. That is group 1. Group 2. This is your Strength card. And group 3. Oops. This is your Strength card. Now, before I give you a moment to focus on all 3 energies that you're receiving here and to suss out which one is calling you the most, let me just update you guys. I currently have a sale going on my website. So for Thanksgiving, there is a 20% off sale off all readings. Also, remember, I do offer natal chart readings now. This sale is running until Friday, which is November 24th. And in order to take advantage of the sale, when you check out, you have to be sure to enter the coupon code THANKS. Just the word thanks. And that will get you the 20% off. And so you can book that anytime between now and Friday as long as the coupon code is active. You don't have to book any appointments during this week. You can book them as far out in advance as you like. So it doesn't have to, I know the holidays are coming up, we're all busy. It doesn't have to happen this week in order for you to be able to use the coupon code, okay? So if you would like to book a private reading, linked below, you will find my website and you can get more information on the readings, and that's where you can book. And don't forget coupon code THANKS. Okay, now I'm going to give you a moment to zone in or zone out, whichever you need, in order to determine which pile is calling you the most. Timestamps are in the description below, and I will meet you at your reading. Hi Group 1, this is your reading. If you chose this Strength card, by the way, this is the Nicoletta Ciccoli Tarot. It's beautiful, beautiful illustrations, or pieces of art, I should say. We are taking a look at tapping into your power. So I'm really trying to keep this straightforward, so we will not be pulling a whole bunch of tarot cards. We're going to pull very simplistic responses that we then hopefully unfold. That's at least the vibe that I'm getting so far. But we have a whole bunch of decks standing by to kind of flesh out the responses that we get, okay? So when it comes to Group 1 tapping into their power, let's take a look at what is your untapped power for Group 1. What is Group 1's? That was an awful shuffle. Let's do that again. Wow. Okay. I mean, maybe sometimes we do it a little bit messy, but it gets the job done, right? Okay, for Group 1. What is Group 1's untapped power? Give me one card to start off with. Ooh, we have the Magician. That feels almost like, that feels like a Uno reverse. It's like, why are you asking me? You should be asking them. So having the Magician come out as your untapped power really indicates to me that you are, first of all, a creator. You are a creator, you are creative. You are also able to utilize resources around you in a very creative way. And the reason that this is coming out as an untapped power is because I think you're being challenged to think beyond regular uses of things. It feels like there is a lot of, this is interesting. It feels like there's a lot of energy or certain resources that are accessible to you that if you were to combine them, you would actually multiply a lot of what you're capable of creating. So the way that this is coming through is I'm seeing colors, but like paint colors. And you know how there's primary colors? And out of those primary colors, you can create any color just by mixing it in different amounts. I'm looking for a different word. But there's there's certain ways in which you stifle your creativity. Let me give you a close-up of this. There are certain ways in which you stifle your creativity, and it may have had to do with the fact that you've been in certain survival mode, or you've had to adapt, or your creativity was actually something that got you into trouble when you were younger. It could have been that you were really kind of pushed to fit in, pushed to not be so loud in some regard. This is, of course, very mercurial energy with the Magician. So there's a definite sadness here. Also, I'm just noticing that this mask that she has in front of her only has one eye to look through. And that's what I was picking up with. If you stifle your own creativity by trying to adhere to someone else's rules or regulations, you really stifle what you even perceive as possible. Yeah, so your untapped power has a lot to do with the magic within. It has a lot to do with your ability to create new new things that other people don't have the vision for, that other people don't, they see the primary colors and they're like, okay, well, I got these 3 colors, that's all I got. And you're like, but what if we tried just mixing it all up, right? And then you have people that are like, no, don't mix the colors. These are the only resources we have. Don't mix the colors. You're ruining them. And it's like, I'm not ruining them. I'm creating more. So a lot of your untapped power has to do with allowing yourself to experiment, allowing yourself to fail, allowing yourself to look foolish by not drawing within the lines, not playing by someone else's rules. Let's put that right here. And then we're going to pull from a different deck in order to get some idea on how you can actively tap into this power. Spirit, give me one card from this deck. One card. How can Group 1 actively tap into this power? Interesting. These came out together, so I will take them together. We have Mystic, Monk, Nun. revels in intimate union with the divine, selfless devotion, and single-minded dedication to spirit. Oh, spirit is like, don't listen to anyone but you and me, baby. So this feels so intimate, and I mean it does say intimate, right? But it feels almost romantic between you and your creativity, you and your and creativity. I believe I'm a huge proponent of art and artists, and so I believe that creativity, which is ultimate self-expression, is like the highest form of worship. And that's what I'm seeing here is true, like total dedication. When we think of a monk or a nun, they give their life, they see their life as a service to whichever religion they adhere to. And so this is saying to really adhere to the intimate connection that you have to your creative spirit. And now this doesn't have to just apply for anyone who is an artist. I want you to be more creative in the way that you receive this message as well, right? So if you feel like, first of all, I will say this a million times over, if you feel like you don't have any artistic talents, you just have not found your medium, okay? But what is coming through here is that there is creativity in living out your life in ways that you don't fully recognize is a creative impulse. Like the way that you even, for some reason I'm getting somebody's aesthetic. Like you might not practice artistic expression, but you curate things that you find aesthetically pleasing. So you might not directly express yourself through putting like transmuting your own self-expression into art, but you curate things that speak to you in a way that then as a full picture, right? I'm seeing like very eclectic, and even if it is a very clean aesthetic, there's still this expression that comes through that collection of different expressions. And so this is really talking about that a lot of your power, and especially when we're talking about power, it has a lot to do with confidence. The more that you stifle your power and don't praise it, that you have an eye for something. You absolutely, I mean, this is coming through very strong. You have an eye for something, whether it is aesthetic, whether it is for talent, right? So you might be very good at spotting certain things. You might be very good at pattern recognition. You have an eye for something. And as long as you don't recognize that, you will not recognize how to use that for your benefit, because it doesn't matter. This doesn't have to do just with creative expression. It's about bringing creativity into whatever it is that you do. So whether that is through bringing creativity, that eye that you have into your career, or into even like your home and family life. There's something where it's like you are relying too much on other people's limitations. Okay, let's get a card from this deck on how to, I mean, that's what we're already talking about here, but I wanted to use a combination of these two on how to tap into your power, or how to tap into your power even more. We have judgment. Yeah, you have to rely on your own judgment. There are things that have kind of brainwashed you to doubting your judgment, to especially, I don't know why, but it's just coming through a lot. Like even behind this monk and the nun, there's a lot of like colorful expression. Colors are really coming through a lot. And there's this rainbow on here. And if we look at this picture, which is very much like muted and gray, but the bird is red, there's something where It may have to do with art, sure. It may have to do with fashion. It may have to do with some sort of aesthetic. And again, if you don't feel like you're not a very creative person, first of all, I would love to challenge that, because yes, you are. I can see it. But also, this could have to do with, it could be as simple as tapping into your power more by wearing clothes that are more aligned with who you are on the inside, and not just clothing that somebody else told you suits your body type or is fashionable right now. And especially colors are going to be very important in kind of like coaxing out your creativity, and experimenting with colors, I think, is going to be very important in tapping into that power. It can make you feel very powerful, going from muted colors to really bright and demanding, like, yes, I have something to share. I want to express myself. So colors, I think, are going to be very important for you. Let's see, do I want to use... No, we're going to save that one for... Sorry. If you've ever watched Group 1 before, you know that Group 1 is where we kind of establish the flow. Okay, now we are going to ask Spirit, what would it look like if you actually are able to integrate this power in a very, you know, in a very empowered way? What does it look like if you, when you integrate this power? I'm gonna get 3 cards for that question. What does it look like if Group 1, when Group 1 integrates this power? We have the Knight of Pentacles. We have the Two of Swords. And we have the Six of Cups. Oh, I love this. Okay. I do want to point out that on this card we had that singular eye, right? And I said you have an eye for something, but also I said that when you wear this mask, you limit your visibility. Here, you are riding this creature that has only one eye, right? So, pardon my French, but I just have to say the way it comes out. This is you making a certain limitation your bitch. It's you playing with the boundaries. Oh my God, also look at it. It says hate me on this little lollipop down here. She gives no fucks. She gives no fucks. She's like, yes, I want to stir up a conversation. I want to create something that is worth talking about. So if this has to do, if you are an artist, this has to do with pushing boundaries. And again, we're talking about how to tap into your power is to only listen to your own judgment and to only adhere to the rules that are set in place between you and spirit, you and your creative spirit, right? And this is really saying that you will actually, and I'm hearing straddling the fence, you will not just discover certain boundaries, like you will become very aware of the limitations that had confined you previously. But once you integrate this power, you actually enjoy straddling the fence, meaning playing exactly with the limitations of what was possible before, and really kind of pushing the boundaries in that regard. And then we have the Two of Swords, indicating that you, again, straddling the fence, it's like a balancing act. Like I really, and I'm still getting like colors and clothing, like I really see you kind of experimenting with certain things. And I want you to also, again, be open and creative to the way that this message is coming through. So if you feel like you work in a field, or if there's something that that is that kind of consumes most of your life, that is not necessarily creative or doesn't feel creative. This is asking you to push the boundaries on that. There's still like room for exploration and experimentation. And whenever we tell ourselves like, no, everything has already been invented, everything has already been set in place, that's when we really limit ourselves, right? And then we have the Six of Cups. And the Six of Cups here, this is such a cute card. But this is really talking about connecting with your inner child more. This is really about connecting with your creativity in a very, like, trusting your creativity. When you integrate this power, it will look like a balancing act. It will feel like pushing boundaries, but it will feel like you're pushing boundaries for good reason. Like you are creating space for a part of yourself that has been really kind of made small for a very long time, and you're allowing growth instead of, this is also making me think of, I'm not sure if this is actually true, but I'm just thinking of this idea of like a goldfish, or yeah, I think so, like a goldfish will only grow as much as its environment allows it to. So you're putting this goldfish, which is your creativity, in a much bigger environment, and then it grows, and it really kind of, you feed each other, and feed each other especially also in a very material way. So once you integrate this is not saying like, oh, you have one flash idea and then you're set for life. That's not what this is saying. This is really saying that you will kind of like push the boundaries on what's possible. So one day you might push them a little bit further, and then the next day you're like, actually, you know what, that was kind of loud. I didn't like how that felt, so let me adjust. This is really kind of like experimentation in action, is how this looks. It's a very flexible energy, and it's a very curious energy when you integrate this. Okay, now I'm trying to, let's roll our dice at this point. We have the 8th house, we have Leo energy, and we have Neptune. Yeah, Neptune is all about creativity, and Leo is all about like having the confidence to pull something off even when you don't have any reason to believe, even if it's not backed up by any like large vote of confidence of the people around you. What matters is that you have the vote of confidence from within, right? The 8th house also has to do a lot with power and control, but also other people's money. I feel like you'll be able to attract, and we got that here too, that you'll be able to attract more money and more material possessions through really kind of leaning into this creative expression. Okay. I want to take a look now at why you might struggle. We're going to use this deck. This is an emotions deck. What are some of the emotions that may come up whenever you try to tap into this power? What are some of the emotions that may come up whenever Group 1 tries to tap into this power? We have careless. That's interesting because it feels like somebody else would tell you, right? So in the past, if you were experimenting too much, if you were veering off the general path too much, people would tell you like, oh, this is very mercurial energy, again, like Gemini energy especially, like, oh, you're too careless. And it's like, okay, but you have to be. Sometimes you have to be. Sometimes you have to not care what other people think. What are some of the emotions that may come up as Group 1 tries to integrate this or struggles with this? Give me one more. We have anger. Interesting. I'm putting these down intuitively, and it's interesting how this anger comes out with this red fish-like being. And there's also, I noticed that this dress is red, this dress is red, and here there is like this integration that takes place because we're letting, there was that red bird, right? Because we're letting that creativity live out. I think there's going to be kind of like this learning curve of you really kind of going all out and then really kind of backtracking, not backtracking, but finding a more balanced medium, because you'll really, and also I do want to say, for some of you, this creative expression could have to do with your sacral energy. So it could have to do with you really coming to terms or becoming more intimate with your sexuality, with your relationship to your physical needs. And you could find yourself going all out, right? Going on a little spree and then being like, okay, that was fun. I learned a lot, but also now I need to rein it in a lot more, or not a lot more, but I need to rein it in a little bit and find a balance that feels like I'm not just addressing like physical needs, but also emotional needs. And so anger could have to do in general, whether it's creative or whether it's physical, because I'm seeing all these things now, because the 8th house does represent sex as well, and that careless energy could have been, somebody in the past telling you, if you give your body away, that's too careless. You can't be careless with giving away access to your physical body. Which of course can be true, but that also doesn't mean that you need to completely restrict yourself, right? What we saw in this cage here. And so this anger card could have to do with, once you really find this balance between, especially because look at, this is a high wire balancing act. And here we have a girl in a tower, very protective. And here we have a girl that is like super in her feminine power, right? And so this could be this balancing act between the two, where it's like, okay, when do I adhere, but when do I push boundaries? And so this anger card could have to do with a lot of sexual frustration, but it could also have to do with frustration around like, why did I allow other people's opinions to hold me down or hold me hostage for so long? Okay, very interesting. Now, so that might be some emotions that come up as you try to tap into this power more. And we're also going to, okay, let me pull 2 cards on why you may struggle with this, and then we're going to get some advice. Why does group 1 struggle with tapping into this power? We have the High Priestess. And then we have the Moon. Okay, so I do think that this has to do with your creative power or your sexual power having been very silenced. And the fact that we have the Moon coming out here at some point in time, it may have actively been silenced by your mother. Doesn't have to be, take it if it resonates, but it's possible that was silenced by your mother at some point in time, and then that kind of led to conditioning that then just echoes in your mind, which is, let me give you a close-up of this Moon card, which the Moon card, of course, always represents our subconscious, right? And so there's some kind of conditioning that subconsciously still keeps this creative spark or this sexual spark very much caged in. Now with the High Priestess, that is that energy of like, no, you need to silence and you need to protect. There's something that there's the reason that you struggle with tapping into this, it comes from a very subconscious desire to protect yourself. And so we're going to get some advice, but I do think that what you may want to do is find ways in which you can push your creative or sexual boundaries in a way that is safe for you, where you don't feel exposed to other people's judgment, right? Where you are in a more controlled environment, and you can do kind of certain experiments in that area, and then the more comfortable and the more confident you become, then you venture out, and that's when you start straddling the fence. And I think it's so funny that straddling the fence came out, and it just kind of seems like for some of you that could be very literal. Okay, can we get some advice on how to help group 1 with this subconscious conditioning? What are some ways that group 1 can overcome this, and let's help them tap into their power more. We have scripting. I'm going to get one more from this deck. Woo. Oh, interesting. We have animals. I don't know why. Oh God, I hate this song, but I'm hearing this like Maroon 5 songs where the guy sings like animals, animals, moles. But again, that song is very much about like animalistic drive when it comes to sexuality, right? So and now I'm also hearing, oh my God, what were they called? Oh my God, that music video where they're all dressed up in like these monkey suits. Very highly inappropriate song, but yeah, let's do it like they do it on the Discovery Channel. Okay, so this definitely has to do with reminding you that certain urges or drives that you have are supernatural. Oh, I meant they are super like, they're totally natural, but listen, if supernatural came out, they are very natural, but you may have been made to believe they're unnatural, or you were made to believe that you have to control them, which of course within society we want to control our urges. But I think especially because we have monk nun as well, right? There's something there that you need to address your human needs. You can't just turn that off. With scripting, so the advice here I think has a lot to do with recognizing your human nature, and also I think it has to do a little bit with fantasizing. And again, not just when we're talking for whoever this applies to on a sexual basis, but also the creative basis, right? Writing down your ideas, and scripting out, like just making sure that you take notes on everything that comes up, everything that comes to mind, because I do think that there are a lot of things that kind of like breeze through your mind, and you don't give them a second thought because you just think like, oh, I have weird ideas all the time. You need to be writing them down more. You need to be writing them down more. Okay. Now, let's see. Any last advice or considerations for group 1? Any last advice or considerations for group 1? Ooh, I fell to the ground. We have inclusions. Yeah, you're not supposed to just put something off to the side or, sweep it under the rug. You're supposed to integrate these things, these creative ideas that you have. And what fell to the ground is catching blossoms. And I think that's very fitting. Catching blossoms is, again, I feel like these flower petals are blue. I feel like you have a lot of ideas and they just fall. And I think all you need to do when it comes to you tapping into your power more is just putting out your hands and catching those ideas and taking a look at them and allowing them to live, and not just letting them fall down to the ground and that's it, right? But actually catching them and paying attention to them and writing them down, writing them down. Okay, we are going to get you one last card. So overall, I think when it comes to your tapping into your power, I think it's really important that you recognize that you have a lot of creative potential that currently you are not experiencing the way that you could be experiencing it, because you are caging it in based on other people's judgment, based on, you know, not wanting to stand out, not wanting to cause, or not wanting to be the cause of attention. And I think the moment that you kind of free yourself from that limitation, you'll actually recognize how to have more fun with it. Okay, any last advice for group 1? Any last advice for group 1? Telling you, you are a creator. We have protectiveness. There's a lot of like ideas that brew in your mind, but imagine like not allowing them to take root, or not allowing, especially because this is like the imagery of a nest. You know, there are, you know, chickens lay eggs, and humans often take them away from them before they can even be fertilized, right? But imagine the difference of being so used to just laying an egg and letting someone else take it away from you, and then they do something with it, which would be, you know, having a career where you don't really get to put your self-expression into the things that you do, but you give your energy away to someone else. Versus a chicken laying an egg and actually like sitting on it, first of all letting it get fertilized, but sitting on it and nesting, and that becomes a whole nother chicken. That becomes a whole baby bird. So the difference between that of like, oh, I laid an egg and yeah, whatever, and your instinct, your animal instinct is, if you were a chicken, is telling you, no, you should sit on that. You should sit on that. I know that's kind of weird, but that's what came up, so I have to share it. And I know it makes sense, so hopefully you were able to follow that weird train of thought. Okay, let me read this for you. This says, nurture, motherhood, protector, and incubation. Belying her serene expression, this woman is hatching more than just creative thoughts. She is a mother, creator of all. The giant bird's nest on her head holds 3 eggs and an older bird already born into the world. Under her skirt there is a glimpse of a large egg. This card symbolizes motherhood, protection of children, and how children develop under a mother's care. Be aware of how your actions or words can affect a fledgling soul. Now, this can have to do with your own motherhood, right? Or your own sense of motherhood, but it is also very indicative of your creativity and nurturing your ideas, right? Allowing, it says, protection of children and how children develop under a mother's care. And so that can be your ideas or your creative expression, your expression of self through your aesthetic or your, you know, the things that you identify with. As well as your inner child that also has a need for self-expression, whether that is in a creative or in a physical way, okay? Be aware of how your actions or the actions of others, which we see down here, there was some kind of conditioning that took place that you now uphold to a certain degree, where this says, beware of how your actions or words can affect a fledgling soul. Be aware of how certain people's actions and rhetoric affected your fledgling soul at the time, right? Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really hope that this was helpful and constructive. I think it was super fascinating. This was a very deconstructed reading. I'm going to struggle to recreate that in number 2, but I'm interested to see what comes out. Again, if you would like to book a reading between now and November 24th, 20% off with the coupon code THANKS. And thank you for being here. And thank you for hanging out with me, and I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care. Hi Group 2, this is your reading if you chose this Strength card, which is from the Pulp Tarot deck. We're going to shuffle that back in and then get into your reading. So this reading, again, is all about tapping into your power. We are going to first get a card on what is your untapped power. Where is some potential that you're perhaps not fully realizing or not fully taking advantage of? For Group 2, what is their untapped power? One card, please. What is Group 2's untapped power? What is Group 2's untapped power? Oh, look at that. I love it when they come out so deliberate. Okay. Look at that, 10 of Cups at the bottom of the deck. That is incredible. Okay, so first of all, look at the colors here. Look at the colors. Beautiful. So the Empress coming out as your untapped power can mean a multitude of things. I've been having trouble with my words today, so please be patient with me. This could pertain to not fully tapping into your divine feminine energy, not fully tapping into your femininity. And as always, I want to point out that this has nothing to do with your gender expression. We all have masculine and feminine energy within us. And so you might, when we talk about our power, you might feel more inclined to tap into your more masculine energy, or it just comes easier to you. Your untapped power has a lot to do with your feminine energy, your feminine power to receive information, input, and then to create with that information, input, or resource. So this is also very, very much a creative, mothers are the ultimate creators, right? And so this is very much not fully tapping into your creative potential. So when we are not fully tapped into our Empress energy, we are not fully open to receiving everything that it is that we are capable of receiving. And when we struggle with receiving, it typically has a lot to do with issues around worthiness, or issues around hyper-independence. And so those might be some themes that you struggle with. Being open to support, being open to relying on others, struggling with actually receiving praises and compliments. Not fully tapping into your power looks a lot like hiding. We're going to set this right here, and then we're going to start pulling some cards from this Oracle deck. So we want to take a look at how can you tap into this power more. We're shooting for one, but let's see what comes out. How can group 2 tap into their Empress energy more? Oh my goodness, I fell to the ground. Cards have been doing that a lot lately. We have Gambler. Willingness to follow intuition even when others doubt you. Now, that is interesting because that is one aspect of the Empress that I actually didn't touch on, which I'm glad that it comes up, because masculine energy, so the Emperor energy, is about taking action. Empress energy is not passive though. Like I said, Empress energy is the ultimate creator, right? So it's not passive energy, but it is energy that relies heavily on input and therefore your senses. Your Empress energy relies on intuiting when is the time to create. And so I think this indicates that you possibly hold yourself back because you're possibly more in tune with your Emperor energy, and therefore kind of used to doing it yourself, used to really kind of being defensive. And this energy is asking more so for fine-tuning your ability. And I mean, if you take a look at this imagery, he has his eyes blindfolded. And you know how they say when we lose one of our senses, the other senses get more heightened. And I don't know that it's necessarily that they automatically get more heightened, it's just that we rely on them more. And so this is saying that in order to tap into your Empress energy more, it's asking you to focus more on the senses that would support your Empress energy. And when we're talking about our senses and our feminine energy, we're talking about sensual experiences. We're talking about trusting our gut feeling. We're talking about trusting our intuition, as this says, willingness to follow intuition. That is not blind faith. That is paying closer attention to the slightest sensory inputs that you receive. It's paying closer attention. So in order to do that, sometimes we have to dial down the noise, the input that we receive, so that we can, you know, it's kind of like when you're trying to figure out directions and you're driving and you have to turn down the radio because you got to think, right? It's like turning down the music helps you focus more. And that's what we're talking about here, that we have to kind of limit some sort of inputs, distractions, so that we can focus more on the sensory experience that is actually trying to direct us. Let's get one card from this deck on how to tap into your power more. Oh my goodness. I don't think you, yeah, that was off camera. But the way that this fell out, it's a 10 of Wands, and it came out with like a stack of cards, and because the stack was slipping, it ended up like slowly sliding off the table, and it landed on my thigh in the reverse. So that is how I will take it. So we have the 10 of Wands in the reverse, absolutely confirming what I just said, because the 10 of Wands is about carrying too much, carrying too many burdens. The 10 of Wands is in reverse, is reminding us to let go. This has a lot to do with releasing themes around hyper independence and releasing themes of like, I can't rely on anyone else. The Empress has to be open to co-ruling. The Empress has to be open to co-creation. And there is an element here that is asking you for faith, but it is not blind faith. Despite the blindfold here, again, it is not blind faith because you still have your other senses. It's relying more on other sensory input than just cold, hard fact truths. Cold, hard facts and what we believe is truth. And so this Ten of Wands is reminding you to release the things that you are kind of gripping onto too much, just out of a sense of like, no, I have to do this, or no, nobody else is, you know, if I don't get this done, nobody else is going to get it done. There's an ask for you to release some sort of sense of obligation. Also, it's asking you to simplify when it comes to like creative expression, or if you are trying to get something off the ground. Again, I think you're very much in your masculine energy. So I think you're very much in like a phase of like go, go, go. But there's a lot of potential in kind of engaging in more patience and engaging in more receptive energy, kind of, you know, creating more of a balance between the stop and go. It's a give and take is what I'm just hearing. Okay, let's see. We're going to get 3 cards. We're going back to the Pulp Tarot, and we're going to get 3 cards on what does it look like when you integrate that untapped power. So when you actually tap into it and integrate that into your experience, what will that look like for group 2? What will it look like to integrate this untapped power? Ooh, love that. We have the 8 of Pentacles. What will that look like? Are you kidding me? We have the Ace of Cups. And we have the World. You want the world? I'll give you the world on a platter. I don't know where that came from, but that's what I just heard. You want the world? I'll give you the world on a platter. Okay, so we have the 8 of Pentacles, which is all about earning your keep. This is earned. Like, I think you've already put a lot of work into something, into establishing something, into creating something, into building some kind of foundation for yourself. And listen, this applies to self-development, spiritual development, romantic development. It doesn't really matter. You place this wherever it fits into your life. But I do recognize that your masculine energy has been busy. You have been like tinkering away at building something, right? With the 8 of Pentacles, it's like you've been putting in the work, but there is a time ahead of you where you really have to kind of earn your, where you have to collect your debts. You have to collect something. And what I'm seeing right now is like the imagery of, you may be more comfortable with the process of putting in the really difficult work, because again, I'm getting a lot of hyper independence from your energy. But what I'm seeing here is, think of an author. An author puts in so much work away from the public, right? They're writing their novel, and there's so much that happens behind closed doors, that happens in private, and it's like, I can't give this work to someone else. I have to do it. I have to create this novel, right? And then there is a birthing period with this Empress card. There is a birthing period where you've completed the novel, and you have to bring it out into the world and be like, this is what I created. And this is where you're struggling, because you either are not willing to give it up. That's why we have this 10 of Wands in reverse, right? You're kind of trying to hold on. Maybe you're trying to get another edit in. But also, when an author releases a book, after that comes promotion. And promotion is the act of placing yourself on a pedestal, saying, I've created something and you should want it, and here is why. And then there's all this self-promotion that is involved in that. And I feel like you struggle with that. You struggle with positioning yourself in a way to say like, hey, look at all this work that I've done. I earn your respect. I earned your patronage. I've earned you giving me resources so that I can keep doing this, right? This is something that I see you struggling with. If you actually tap into this Empress energy, and it's not just blindly telling yourself, well, okay, I'm open to receiving now. There's a little bit more that goes into that. But once you do tap into that, it feels like you're able to garner a lot of attention for the work that you do, for whatever it is that you're working on, that you're creating, that you are birthing. You're able to garner a lot of attention, and that can be on a very global scale with this world card, but it can also just be within your community, right? Within whatever it is that you're trying to uphold, whether that's just within your workplace or within a much larger, like, no social network. But I do see that once you integrate this energy, you're able to receive a lot more, because you are like open to receiving, because you honor what it is that you've created a lot more. There's like, yes, this is worthy of attention. Yes, this is worthy of being paid. Quite literally with the Eight of Pentacles. But not just, material wealth, but also like it's worthy of recognition, and therefore you are worthy of recognition. So once you integrate this energy and kind of allow more, see, the way that I'm seeing the energy is like, when you struggle with it, it's this energy, and when you integrate it more, it's this energy. We're going from, I gotta do it myself. I gotta, and I gotta hold on to, well, here's what I have. Here's what I have to offer. But the moment you open your hands to like, here's what I have to offer, you also open them to receiving. I'm seeing this imagery of, people like overhead, an imagery of like people at a market exchanging goods for money, right? So, yeah. Okay. I want to take a closer look at why you may struggle with integrating this power. Which again, this power is your feminine energy, right? So let's get some emotions cards. What are some emotions that you might be struggling with when it comes to integrating this power? What are some emotions that you may struggle with when it comes to integrating this power? Give me 2 cards. We have confusion. And we have neglect. Oh. Oof. Okay. This is connecting. Oh my God, this is gonna hit. This is connecting to that energy of hyper independence that I was talking about, because that hyper independence doesn't you don't develop hyper independence in a vacuum, is what I want to say. And then the moment that I formulated that sentence, I realized that is actually how it is formed. Nothing just comes out of nowhere. That's what, when you say like, oh, something like that doesn't happen in a vacuum, that's what the sentiment of that is, right? That nothing comes from nowhere. However, those words itself, that hyper independence, I think does find its inception in a vacuum, because it is in a vacuum of care that we become hyper independent, because we realize that the people that we should be able to depend on are not stable enough to supply us with dependency, with support. And so we form this, it's like getting a vaccine and you form antibodies to neglect. And the antibodies that you have formed to combat the neglect that you have faced, they have no place in your body anymore. And so that's where confusion comes in, because it's like I totally get it. I totally get it. And I hope I'm going to be able to explain this, but the confusion comes from a place of not understanding quite how to tap into this, because you are so used to having to create on a very different level. It's almost like you're not so much used to creating from a gentle space. You create from a place that is defensive, and that has a lot to do with survival. You create from a place that is that has to do with conquering. Especially because I do think that you're a lot more comfortable with your Emperor energy. So you're more comfortable with conquering space for yourself instead of demanding space for yourself. And those sound very similar, but they're very different energetic expressions. Because one of them is like, I have to fight my way to create space for myself, and I will fight to create space for myself. And this Empress energy is more so like the inner knowing of like, no, I deserve space, and therefore the space creates itself for me. And I think you've had to work very hard for a very, very, very long time, and then it's kind of like that proved itself to be true. And we also live in a society, in a capitalist society, where we are told that you have to work hard to earn your keep. And so everything you've experienced kind of confirmed that, but you're hitting a wall where that attitude doesn't take you much further, because you have to now get to a place to actually open up to receiving in a very different way that has not to do with taking, right? I think that's where the confusion lies, is that you're learning that your untapped power has to do with receiving, and you're very much used to taking. You have to take, like I'm seeing the imagery of like a dinner table, and it's like a huge family, and somebody sets down, a plate, and it's like, or sets down a certain dish, and if you don't grab fast enough, then nothing's left for you. That's the energy I'm seeing. If you don't grab what you need fast enough, right? And so I think that's the energy that you're very used to, of taking. Taking is not the same as receiving. Oof. Okay. Let me pull 2 cards on why, connecting to these, but why you may struggle with this. We have the Hangman. I feel like being left hanging, hung out to dry. And it just feels like there's, okay, let me get another card. But I was gonna say, it feels like feeling limited in reach. That is something that you were used to. Yeah, even here, like this imagery in particular, even though this is a positive card, but this imagery in particular in this deck It always stands out to me that this kid is on this little horse that can't go anywhere, right? Feeling very limited in reach. Again, both of these are limited in reach. And so the reason that you might struggle with this is because you might be refusing to understand the other ways that you are able to reach, right? Because you may struggle with tapping into this power because I totally get the confusion because it's so nuanced. It's just very slight differences in how to approach material or emotional wealth. With the Hanged Man and the Sun card, it feels like the reason that you struggle with tapping into this power is because you struggle with understanding how you can reach for something if you don't move, if you don't like physically go after it. This is a strong focus on physical limitations or even ego limitations with the Sun. It's like, well, what do you mean I'm supposed to, like, it's very much like, what do you mean I'm supposed to create wealth but not by moving? The Hanged Man is about an inner exploration. It's about, first of all, a change in perspective, but it is also about embracing stillness to go within and seeing how a changed perspective can enlighten you from within. And it begins within. And so there is a change that has to happen within so that you can move differently without. Okay? Let's roll our dice. I realized I forgot to roll the dice. We have the first house, which is the house of self. We have Leo energy and we have Venus energy. So yeah, this is very much, when it comes to your untapped power, it really has a lot to do with receiving, with this Venus energy, and with understanding that you are worthy of receiving with that Leo energy. Let's see. Let me get you one card. Can we get one card for advice on, we already got how to tap in. Give me one card on how to overcome this struggle. We have the Fool. I think that you've experienced very specific limitations that really kind of forced you to become very proficient in how to maneuver the material world. Very much survivor. Like, it's giving survivor, and you're very skilled at that. And because you're so skilled at that, whatever we're skilled at, we tend to gravitate towards that because it's like, okay, I'm proficient in this, right? This is easy for me. And the parts of your power that is not easy for you is receiving. And the Fool card is asking you to embrace that there is something for you to learn about yourself here. That there is something for you to really be a beginner at, and it has to do with receiving. And in order to tap into that, that takes us back to this, right? In order to tap into that, we have to let go of some of our obligations and focus more on our connection to our own intuition. Let's get 2 cards from this deck. Any advice on how to overcome the struggles that we are facing when it comes to tapping into our power? Need 2 cards. Need one more. We have cooking and we have energy work. Energy work, I think, is very important for you because this is something that you should embark on if you're not familiar with it at all, right? So just learning about it can really already teach you a lot in how to open up certain gates within yourself. Because that's the thing, there are certain gates that I think are closed. And once you open that gate, that's what I was picking up on earlier. And I said that this feels like hiding energy, right? So if you think about the Emperor and the Empress being the masculine and feminine energy within you, within your mind that reside over your entire being, this feels like the Emperor has felt the need to protect the Empress and he locked her away. He locked her away, was like, you know what, the kingdom is not being very nice to you. They're not really very giving. I have to make sure that we are being, that we don't lose our power. So I just want to make sure you're safe. I'm going to lock you away. I don't want you to feel like it's, you know how they say that Marie Antoinette was really kind of ignorant about the reality of the situation during the French Revolution? Like she was like, what? Let them eat cake, right? Because she didn't understand, because she had been kept away. She had been kept busy because it wasn't her worries to worry about, truly. At that point in time, it was very different, lavish, royal lifestyles, but still, like the essence of that still holds. She was not aware of the severity of things. And that was because she was locked away, because her skills were not of use to the ruler. And so I feel like that's kind of how it comes through with your masculine and feminine energy. Your feminine energy was not of use to your masculine energy at one point in time when it came to survival. And so your masculine energy said, lock her away. I need to handle this situation. We'll get to her. Well, now is the time to get to her. Now is the time to let her out of her tower. And when you let her out of her tower and bring her back into the halls where your emperor has been ruling, you know, then it's kind of like, okay, now like let's make up for the lost time. Let's cherish her. Let's celebrate her. And I think this is a long metaphor just to say that there's something about yourself that you're not fully honoring. And it's going to require you to get to know that part of yourself better. And in order to get to know that part of yourself, you're going to have to turn down some distractions. You're going to have to spend some time getting to know her. Right? That her within you. With this Fool card, you're going to have to spend some time meditating. You're going to have to spend some time really kind of tapping into your own needs and pampering yourself, treating yourself like a queen. Again, no matter your gender expression. So cooking is coming through. I had this not too long ago in a reading. I don't remember if it was a client reading, but this is reminding me of how often we, especially when it's just ourselves, how we will not prepare a full meal for ourselves, but we'll prepare it for a friend. If somebody's coming over saying like, hey, do you want to have dinner together? We go all out and we create this lavish meal because somebody's coming over and we think, you know, they're worth it. Well, you should make an effort to create really delicious meals for yourself as well. But cooking is also not just that literal aspect. It's metaphorically speaking, it is the combining of different resources and then exposing them to heat or exposing them to some kind of binding agent in order to create something completely new, right? And so this is just saying that the advice for you to overcome that struggle is to be more flexible and to be more open to, because sometimes certain recipes you're like, how is that going to turn into anything edible? And then in the end it does. So it's about being more open and being more experimental with the things and how you combine them. And also what's coming through is, you know how some people are just better at cooking, and like I'm a pretty decent baker, and my cooking is fine. I'm a good cook. But for example, my sister for the longest time, she's gotten much better at it, but my sister is an excellent cook and used to be not good at baking whatsoever. And over time, she's exposed herself, she's experimented more and more with baking, and now she's finally a good baker. But sometimes it just goes like that because cooking and baking are kind of very different things. Like they just work differently, right? And cooking is a lot more, it's a much more flexible art form. And so this is just reminding me of experimenting, but also not giving up, right? Just, you can always fix a meal. But what I was trying to get to is that some people are just better at baking or better at cooking. And that's what I'm getting with this Emperor and Empress energy as well. Like, you're just more comfortable with the one skill, but it's time for you to explore this other power resource that you have, which I think connects closely to your intuition and to receiving. And my goodness, I've been just talking in circles because this is a very, very nuanced kind of issue, and so I've been talking in circles. Okay, any last advice for group 2 when it comes to tapping into their power? Ooh. Look at, we have wonder. I'm like, where do I put this down? Also, because this card wanted to come out as well, so that's why. So we have wonder and weave. So the advice, again, with this Fool card is to be more willing to learn about yourself. Like, there are things about yourself that I think you have just kind of like shut away, and that you've shut them away from yourself, but therefore you've also shut them away from other people. And then weave is all about, sorry, I was going to say it's all about strategic action, but I was kind of drawn to the fact that these are steps leading up, and these kind of look like steps leading up as well. For some reason, that is telling me there's many ways, there's many ways to getting to where it is that you're trying to go. That's something that's coming through. I definitely understand, and I'm tapping a lot into this energy of confusion. But I think that's because part of you is just so focused on the material, and because you're more comfortable, again, in things that you can see on the material plane and understand from a logical basis. But I think there are things where you won't understand them until they have been created. There are things that you don't have to understand. You don't have to be able to make sense of it. And I think that's what we're trying to get away from, is the idea that everything has to make sense to you. Okay, we're gonna get one last oracle card, and this one we're gonna read from the booklet. I hope that at least some of this reading made sense to you, because to be honest, I feel like I just entered a little spider web maze, and I'm like, wait, did any of that make sense? Any last advice for group 2? But again, wonder and weave. I think it's really important to spend some time with yourself. Look at, we have weaving flowers. Yeah, see, something's not going to make sense until it's created, until it's done, until it's received, until it's fully composed. It says creator, art of the universe, integration. Here we see a woman gathering the delicate petals of blossoms and making them into flowers. It seems like she is weaving them together, bringing a greater whole into being. She is calm and concentrated on her work. This woman is a creator. She draws from the petals falling from the sky and growing from earth. Inspiration is all around. Gather it up to create a new whole. And we had that world card here. So overall, tapping into your power has a lot to do with bringing more curiosity and more, well, more or less, tapping into your curiosity and releasing obligations. So that is the less, turning down obligations and focusing more on your well-being, your mental health specifically, but also like treating yourself the way that you know you deserve to be treated. I think that tapping into all of this in combination with a lot of the very like active role that you already take, and then adding this on top of that will really magnetize your ability to attract. Because I do think that you are very much in an energy of taking and conquering, and then this really kind of flips a switch with that Hanged Man and the sun, and it's a lot more about like, okay, here I am, I'm shining a light, now everything that is meant to find me can find me. And then we're going from taking and grabbing and conquering to attracting and receiving. And oh, okay, now this is making sense. See, okay, I found myself again. I got lost here for a second. But that's why this weave is coming in, because it's a spider creates a web and then the spider waits, right? The spider, and you've already created a lot of that web, but then the spider waits for things to be attracted to the web or being caught in the web. Wonder is definitely asking you to meditate more, to just connect. And meditation doesn't have to always be traditional meditation. Meditation can come in many forms. Whatever comes most, I mean, I would definitely recommend trying to do traditional meditation, but whatever comes most naturally to you, as a matter of really honoring yourself and reflecting upon connecting with yourself. You really got to put yourself on a pedestal in order to attract. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. I went way over because I've been talking in circles, but yeah, in order to tap into your power, you really gotta let that Empress out of the tower. Oh, that rhymed. Okay. If you would like to book a personal reading, by the way, the personal readings are a lot more straightforward. This is where I get to have fun. This is where I get to experiment and be like, whoa, what's going on here? Because I love a complex, nuanced reading. I could make them a lot simpler. I could, but I like to I like to challenge myself, okay? So let me just tell you that if you've never gotten a personal reading from me, trust me, they are typically a lot more straightforward unless you're asking about something that's just as complex as this, of course. But they're typically very straightforward. So rest assured, you will leave feeling very much confirmed in your intuition. And you might be feeling very much confirmed from this as well. It's just that I'm having a hard time fully grasping the entirety of this because it's very nuanced, and it's a general reading, so it's gonna be different for lots of people. However, let me stop talking in circles. If you would like to book a personal reading, let me remind you that until 11/24, use the coupon code THANKS and you'll get 20% off any reading, okay? And other than that, thank you for being here, for having the patience to sit through this very fascinating reading with me, and I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care. Hi Group 3, this is your reading if you chose this Fortitude card, which is the Strength card, but it's titled Fortitude in this deck. This is the Star Spinner Tarot. We're going to shuffle that back into the deck, and then we're going to get right into your reading. This reading is all about tapping into your power, and so what we're going to start off with is we are going to get one card that is going to tell me about your untapped power. So, Spirit, for Group 3, tell me about Group 3's untapped power. We have the Six of Wands. That is beautiful energy. Look at this card. Okay, so immediately what I'm getting is that part of your untapped power has to do with leadership skills. It has to do with being inspiring, being an inspiration to people, even if it is just by leading by example. But there is definitely this feeling of not fully having stepped into the light, whether that is because of a lack of opportunity or a lack of confidence. But the fact that this is untapped, it really indicates to me that once you do fully get the opportunity or the confidence to step into the spotlight, you are able to really shine in a very different way, in a way that you might not even be fully aware of. Meaning, this can have to do with once you get the opportunity to step into a leadership role within your career, once you step into a role that requires you to be a lot more visible, it's like you recognize, oh wow, I'm good at this. And it will bring you a lot of attention. This also tells me that you are actually able to garner a lot of attention. This also tells me that you are probably able to really utilize, although that sounds kind of odd, but utilize your beauty, whether that is physical beauty or emotional beauty, the beauty of your brain. There's something that's very beautiful and attractive about you that you perhaps don't want to rely on, and so you're not fully tapping into that. Part of your untapped potential has to do with, like, I'm getting strong Venus vibes from this in general. And I do want to point out that I chose all of my decks that I used today very intuitively, and the Star Spinner Tarot, I actually had it away. I have a bunch of decks that I keep right next to my desk. And then I have a whole nother drawer full of decks. And those typically, when I think of them, it's kind of like they're calling me. And then I go to the drawer and I specifically go looking for them, right? And that's what happened today with the Star Spinner Tarot. And I will tell you that this deck is a very lovely deck, but it's very particular. Like there is so much of this deck that I haven't seen. And I'm saying this for a reason, because I think it applies. There are so many cards in this deck that I have not actually seen come out in readings, because this deck is very heavy on the wands. Every time I use this, I get a ton of wands come out. So I'm interested to see what comes out in your reading. But I'm not surprised that the first card out is wands, because I'm telling you, like, this deck is so heavy on the wands. And so whenever it calls to me, it's like I already know the flavor of the reading, so to speak. It's kind of like a certain cuisine, right? But in particular, the deck is a very like it's a very sweet energy. And so you might be hesitant about taking up space, because I do also get the sense that your untapped power has to do with you having to center yourself, and perhaps that is uncomfortable for you. Perhaps that is something where you'd rather center other people, or you don't want to make things about yourself. But this is telling me that whatever cause you care about is actually able to gain attention or recognition through you being centered around it. And that doesn't necessarily have to mean that it doesn't take away from the nobility of the work that you would be putting into that. It really just speaks to your ability to attract attention. Okay? All right, let's pull we're pulling one from this deck to get some more insight on how you can tap into this Six of Wands energy more. How can group 3 tap into this power more? How can group 3 tap into this power more? Okay. Okay. I'm struggling right now because I have 2 extra cards that want to come out, but I really just wanted one. I'm going to take this one that came out right with it. We have Child, Wounded, and Mentor. But I do want to point out that Femme Fatale wanted to come out as well. To me, that kind of speaks to being more confident in your ability to attract. But I think this is more what we're focusing on. Child, Wounded, and Mentor. This says, awakens compassion and desire to serve other wounded children, opens the learning path of forgiveness. And then Mentor says, passing on wisdom and refining a student's character. See, this is exactly what I was picking up on, where I could tell you don't want to center yourself. But you, oh, I'm getting goosebumps. It's 4:44 on the clock right now. You, in some regard, are a survivor. You, in some regard, are very inspirational. And even though you don't want to center yourself, I can tell you right now that there are a lot of people that would benefit so greatly from you choosing to step into the light, because it would show them a model which to live by. It would show them inspiration. It would give them hope in some shape or form. Now, that doesn't mean you have to exploit your own wounds. That doesn't mean you have to exploit your own hurt just to help others, right? If that is not a responsibility that you want to take on, you don't have to. But this is saying that there is a power, there is a source of power that you have in taking up space. And if you did that, even just for yourself, you don't have the obligation to heal others. But if you just become more comfortable with taking up space in the light, that will come naturally. That will just happen on its own. You wouldn't even have to do much. But I do see that this is also something that would be very healing to you. It's like helping others helps you. And that I think is very true. That is something that I live by. That is something that I've written on my like on my website, because I do believe in that. Like, helping others helps us. Sometimes even more than the other way around, but who knows. But so in order to how to tap into this more, I do feel like you would eventually just evolve into a mentor, but this could also have to do with you finding a mentor, finding someone that you can, and it doesn't even have to be a literal like mentorship program or anything like that. It could just be someone that you see online that you connect with, and that you say, you know what, I'm going to take this person as an inspiration, and I'm going to try and live more like they do. That doesn't mean to copy them or anything like that, but it just means to kind of emulate the energies that you are attracted to in order to help you gain more confidence. Okay? All right, let's get one from this tarot deck, one card on how to tap into your untapped energy more. We have the Ten of Cups. This has everything to do with focusing and centering your wellness, your healing, your pleasure, your fulfillment. Just by doing that, you are able to actually attract even more of it. This also has to do with, I think you have a very sweet and caring energy. And I think, with Child Wounded, I think it's very clear that you've been a survivor of some kind. And I think in order for you to be more accepting of attention and praise, Spirit wants you to live more in an energy state, an energetic state of indulgence. They want you to indulge more. They want you to, and I think you're a very giving person. But what they're saying is like and I'm getting one of my oracle decks. There's a card that's titled Sharing, and it says there's giving in receiving and receiving in giving. And so this Ten of Cups is telling me, like, give all the compliments in the world, but know that if you struggle with receiving them, then why are you giving them? Because imagine if you give all of the compliments and love in the world, and the people that you're trying to give them to are reluctant to receiving them, that would hurt you. So then why would you allow it the other way around, right? There's something where you are not allowing yourself to receive, which is very interesting, because that also kind of came out in pile 2, but very differently. With you, I think you're open to receiving, but you're very much like you'll receive in quiet. You're like, oh yeah, okay, thank you. But Spirit wants you to be more proud, take up more space, be celebrated for the beauty that you are, the walking beauty. It's almost, I honestly feel that Spirit is very proud of you, and they almost feel offended by the way that you hide yourself, because it's like, excuse me, like, you are my creation, how dare you hide? Right? How dare you hide? You are my baby, you are my creation, you are everything that I want you to be, so why would you hide that? It's almost offensive to Spirit. And I say almost. Okay, I'm gonna pull 3 cards now, back to the star spinner. We're gonna pull 3 cards on what would it look like if you are able to integrate this power more. What will it look like integrating this power more for group 3? We have the Lovers. And one beautiful thing about this deck is that it has multiple iterations of the Lovers card. We have the Wheel of Fate, which is the Wheel of Fortune. And one more, please. The Eight of Wands wanted to come out with that as well. And we have the Judgment card. I like how we go from the 10 to the 20, like X to XX, because it feels like there's something that would just grow exponentially. And I think it has to do with accepting something, accepting some kind of mission, accepting some kind of attention. It really has to do with it leads you, it puts you, sorry. I was trying to refine where Spirit wanted me to go. Accepting some kind of mission, and I'm literally hearing like Mission Impossible, like should you choose to accept this mission, there's something where once you accept this energy more, it puts you at the right place in the right time to amplify what you already are willing to accept. And then it's like, what I'm getting is that with the Six of Wands, imagine you are backstage somewhere and there's a curtain and you don't know how many people are beyond that curtain. You don't know how big the audience is. And you're telling yourself, you're like, oh my God, what if there's like 25 people out there? What if there's like, oh my God, what if there's like 35 people out there? But you get yourself to a point where you're like, okay, whatever, I'm gonna do this, it's fine, I have something to share, I'm gonna step into the limelight. And then the curtain opens and it's 35,000 people. That's what this is, that's what this is. And I will say, if you have chosen group 3 before for another reading, I will tell you, I have noticed this trend. My group 3s, I feel like so often are creators, content creators. They're like, I don't know, there's just something about group 3 that always ends up being like very much, there's like this performative aspect, or there's like this very like notorious aspect to you. And I feel like in this group in particular, it comes with a lot of hesitancy. I feel like typically group 3s, and it's not every reading, but I have seen a trend. Typically group 3s are like, yes, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna tackle the world. Yes, I'm gonna. With you, it feels like you're very hesitant. Like I feel like you probably wouldn't typically choose this slot, the group 3s. And if you have, then that's just further confirmation that you're in the right spot. But I definitely see a little bit of hesitancy there, right? Where it's like, you don't want to center yourself for some reason. And now let me tell you that this doesn't only have to do with being in the public eye. This can also have to do with within relationships. You don't want to center yourself. Within connections, within friendships, you put other people first. And in that case, this energy is saying that, again, you need to center your own well-being more, which has a lot to do with showing up authentically with the Lovers card. Once you integrate that, you're able to show up a lot more authentically. And then that puts you in a place, in a position to be available to be recognized very differently. Woo! Okay, let's take a look at, we're going to get some emotions cards. We're going to get 2 cards on what kind of emotions you might struggle with when it comes to integrating this. Why you may struggle with integrating this power. Give me 2 cards, please, for group 3. some emotions they may struggle with when integrating this power. Interesting, we have pride. And that doesn't mean that you, and we have apprehension. Yeah, that totally makes sense. This doesn't mean that you are too prideful. And if anything, with apprehension, this means that you are not prideful enough, that you're not demanding enough. You're not, you know, that's why this is untapped potential, because you might associate demanding attention with pride in a negative sense, or pride itself might be something that you think is a negative quality to have or to exhibit. And apprehension has a lot to do with just, you know, not feeling sure, not feeling like you that you are able to, or that you are worthy of this attention. But it's like, it's part of your power. It's part of something that you are actually quite easily able to garner, to elicit. Like, I feel like you have like a static energy around you, and you're just able to kind of create this very magnetic energy. But you're worried about how, I don't know. I think you're worried about well, we're actually going to pull some cards right now to see why you struggle with that. But I think it may have to do with being a fear around being perceived as vain, being perceived as someone who is doing something simply for the attention. When I can see that your intentions are pure. Your intentions are more impactful than you realize. And that bleeds through. And I think you're very concerned that that won't be clear. Let's roll these dice. That was so loud. We have the 5th house, which again has to do with pleasure. We have Venus, which has to do with pleasure. And we have Capricorn, which is very much about structure and grounding. You need to engage more in the fact that you deserve to experience pleasure for pleasure's sake. You don't have to justify things. It's okay for you to enjoy things, especially on a material realm. And especially because this has to do with fortifying the soil of what it is that you're trying to grow. This attention might just be a byproduct of your ability to really influence people, and you see that as a negative byproduct. But I'm telling you, this byproduct is able to fortify the soil from which you will grow the things that are most meaningful to you. And that is the impact that your intentions will have. So your intention is not to garner attention for attention's sake. You have a mission. But your mission is intertwined with you really, really leaning into your pleasure and living out loud as a inspiration, as a survivor, as someone who has experienced something that was very painful, and you've overcome it. Not just overcome it, because that sounds like, I don't know, that sounds off, but it's the experience of what you survived didn't take anything from your ability to experience pleasure. And being able to display that, being able to share that with people is going to be so inspirational. Whether that is on a private level, again, this doesn't have to be on a super public level. This can have to do a lot with just, you know, again, when we're talking about work, this is about stepping into stepping into a leadership role despite maybe having taken the long route or feeling not as qualified as others. But once you really accept that my qualifications might not read the same on paper, but the real life experiences that I have allow me a very different type of qualification. And once you really accept that, then this wheel of fortune, it's like you actually stepping onto the ride, and it takes you to somewhere where it's like, okay, now you can really shine. Okay, let's get 2 cards going a little bit deeper on why you might struggle with tapping into this power. And I apologize, it's slowly getting dark out. I don't quite want to turn on the light, but notice how I'm apprehensive to turn on the light? Maybe that's actually what I need to do. You know what? Yeah, maybe that's what we need to do. We need to shine a light on you. Let's change this. You can see my ring light in the reflection here. Yeah. You can't get away from this. You deserve to have a spotlight. We have the Page of Wands. So again, this is going to be 2 cards on why you may struggle to integrate this power. And we have the Emperor. 2 very, very opposing energies. And see, that's something, you are not aware of your impact. You are absolutely not aware of the power that you wield. This is a very, Page of Wands is the Emperor in baby form. It's like the, if they were Pokemon and they, how there's different evolutions of Pokemon, this is like the baby form of the Emperor. And so that's where you kind of struggle with like recognizing that, you think, oh, I'm just a Page of Wands, but in reality, the combination of your intent and your creative abilities, or your intent and whatever it is that you provide to people, the combination of that totally elevates you in a way that you don't recognize, in a way that you struggle to recognize. So that's why you struggle to accept your accolades. You struggle to accept your praises, because you see yourself as a Page of Wands when in reality you have this Emperor energy because of intention, because of experience, and because of just this extra je ne sais quoi, this extra like energy that really kind of, you have this very like almost angelic aura to you. But your life's purpose, I mean, we're not looking at all that, but still I can tell just from this, your life's purpose is not to just serve others. Your life's purpose is more so, part of your life's purpose is more so to inspire through you reaching your fulfillment. Telling you, you are an inspiration just by what you do in the dark. But Spirit is saying, let other people see because they would benefit. They would benefit from being able to witness. Let's get 1 card, advice on how to overcome this struggle. We have the Hanged Man. Underneath that was the Moon card. The Hanged Man is asking you to, that's interesting. So I think the Hanged Man here is asking you to see beyond yourself in a way. Because again, they're not saying that you're obligated to share yourself or anything like that. But they're saying to almost like get out of your own head through connecting more with Source. Of course, the Hanged Man is always about meditation and, like seeing the bigger picture through stillness. But what I'm getting from that is that your ego and your pride are actually limiting you. So the idea of like, no, I don't have anything to share, or no, don't make a big fuss for me. You know, making yourself, it's not necessarily that you're making yourself smaller, it's that you're not accepting the praise for what you are actually capable of. And I do want to say that if you are in an environment, meaning a friendship group, a family, a relationship, where that is being upheld, then you are there by choice. Then you need to be more loud about what you are owed, and you need to be clearer on your boundaries and remove yourself from that kind of environment so that you can demand more of what you are owed. But this hanged man is saying in order to like overcome this, you really have to become more aware of the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that you're okay. We were talking about intentions, right? What I'm seeing is that you have built a fence that holds you in. Those are the limitations, and it is built out of pride. But it's like, this is all of that the inspirational energy that you are capable of, and you've built the fence like right here, but it's also like just a like Yankee little fence, like it's not anything that can actually hold it in. And so you're still like bleeding out this energy, but you're telling yourself, you're sitting here and you're telling yourself like, oh, but my fence is right there, I can't go beyond that. But you are going beyond that. So it's, spirit is kind of saying like the things that you're telling yourself, or the limitations that you've set upon yourself, don't even hold you in, and it doesn't even make sense. So it's kind of like, look beyond that. Okay, let's see. Sorry, I had to do a big stretch. Oh, I was gonna pull from this deck, yes. Okay, we're going to pull 2 cards from my Spirit Whispers deck to get some more advice on how you may be able to combat this struggle. 2 cards, please, for group 3. And 1 more. We have crafting and knowing, claircognizance. That hanged man directly connecting to knowing, the inner knowing, connecting to your inner knowing. And the inner knowing for you is all about the wisdom that you've gained through your survival. And keeping that from others is somehow just, it's limiting you, and it's depriving others of some resource. Again, I don't necessarily see that you actively have to become a mentor. I see that you would just automatically step into that kind of energy because of your intentions to because of your intentions are very very pure and very grounded. It would just, that's just how the puzzle pieces would fall into place here, that you would be able to amplify some kind of message that is larger than you, and that comes from deep within. And so again, connecting more with your inner voice, not this conditioning that told you to not demand attention or space. Connecting more with your inner knowing allows you to tap into that, and you become an amplification of some kind of inner knowledge. And in crafting might be a way for you to share. Like you might, perhaps, this doesn't have to be literal, it can be a metaphor, but it could be that when you keep your hands busy, you may be able to share more. There's a creator that I follow on TikTok who does like linoleum prints. and she shares a lot of stories about mythology while she carves these prints. And it's just incredible how she's able to engage people by just not centering herself, but sharing her wisdom and sharing her knowledge around these beautifully intricate storylines of mythology. And you can't even see her most of the time because she's showing her craft, right? But it allows her a platform to speak. That is something that immediately came to mind with this crafting card. So there might be something that where you can incorporate different things that you do. However, crafting is also talking to me about the beauty of because a lot of times when, not anymore, I think we're doing I think millennials in general are doing a pretty good job in keeping crafting alive. But for a long time, crafting was something that was mainly for children, right? And so I think this has to do with healing some aspect of our inner child as well, to tap into the imaginative world of crafting and the productivity that is really just centered around around joy of crafting, right? It's not about creating something that has to be commercially successful, although it might be, and you might be able to share something that you've crafted that is commercially successful, but you kind of have to attach yourself to it in order for it to gain meaning for people. Okay. Any last advice or considerations for group 3? Any last advice for group 3? We have Adapt, and this card wants out as well. Oh my goodness. And we have the Lion, which the Lion is all about stepping into the limelight. The Lion is about hear me roar. It is about Pride Rock, right? It is about stepping into your power, for sure. Adapt. And look at the bottom of the deck, we have honey. This Adapt card is saying that there is something where, again, I do think that once you tap into this, you'll be able to amplify. There's something where it's like once you really integrate this, once you integrate this power to actually attract attention, you'll be able to amplify something. And I think because your intentions are really solid and grounded, I think you're able to really call in a lot of attention to something that is really worthy of attention. But it's also, again, like I said, that curtain opens, and that's an exaggeration, right? But that curtain opens, and instead of you having expected a tiny audience, you know, all of a sudden there's all of these people. This is saying to be clear in your foundation, to be clear in your intentions, and then that attention, being clear in your intentions, helps you be clear through attention. Meaning that attention that comes in will not, because sometimes, especially attention in form of like attention from people, if you didn't expect it to be as much as you thought, it can be threatening in a way. Like you may be afraid to lose yourself. And this is saying you will be able to adapt. You will be able to manage. You will be able to, it might, you know, be a little bit intimidating at first, but you will step into your power the moment that you are like pushed into the limelight, and the moment that you push yourself into the limelight, especially because the 5th house also has to do with performing. Venus rules acting as well. There's an aspect of you being able to, once you're pushed into the limelight, you step into your role, okay? Okay, one last Oracle card for group 3. We have Moon Dance. That is a number 4. It says daring, balance, easiness, adventure, and perspective. It says, look at this girl balancing on a rope, waltzing with the moon. She is dancing through life. To be this confident is a gift you should be aware of and treasure. Be brave and adventurous. Get out of your comfort zone and see life from a different perspective. If you maintain a balance between levity and lightheartedness, you can stay above the everyday noise that threatens to bring us down. Feel the night breeze in your hair and adventure in your soul. I love that. And it's also talking about like you deserve the 10 of Cups, right? You deserve the 10 of Cups. If you maintain a balance between levity and lightheartedness. I love that. Also, Moon Dance is about following your intuition. Again, you're being guided. You are being guided by some internal wisdom, and you will serve that guidance by following it. Okay? So don't be afraid of the limelight. You will adapt and you will become comfortable in it, and you will and again, it doesn't have to mean that you have to be comfortable with like 6 million eyes on you. That's not necessarily the case, but it has to do with allowing people to recognize you, right? Allowing people to see you, whether that is within a certain community, within your workspace, within your career, or whether that is on a very public sphere. That comes down to you. But you are definitely, you definitely have an incredible untapped potential for attracting attention. And because your intentions are very noble, I think you're able to use that in a very beautiful way. And the only thing that you have to do is really step away from the idea of it being selfish or vain to be open to that kind of attention, because it is not. You are, as long as your intentions are solid, there's nothing vain about it. There's nothing dark about it. About, you know, standing pridefully in the light. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Let me just remind you one more time that if you would like to book a reading between now and November 24th, you can get 20% off on all my readings as long as you use the coupon code THANKS. And that being said, thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out. I know this was, again, a very complex reading. It's just what I do. But let me just remind you that the personal readings that I do are typically a lot more straightforward. This is very, and still nuanced, but this is where I kind of get to play around. I'm going to be focusing on doing some more simple readings in the coming weeks. But this came to me and I needed to explore it, and I like to challenge myself, and this was a very interesting reading, and I hope it was constructive and helpful, and I do hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care.